Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Nigel Farage's latest attempts to make sure nobody blames him for the mess that Brexit will cause when we begin it in 2021. A Brexit, of course, that he supported. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So Nigel Farage has taken a break from shouting at the sea again and decided to return to another of his favourite pastimes, which is explaining just how bad Brexit is going to be. Now, first of all, he said that the first day of Brexit, January the 1st, 2021, will leave Brexit supporters angry because it won't be what they voted for. Now, that immediately begs the question, why are we doing it? I mean, if everyone's going to be upset, those on the Remain side are of course going to be upset. We already are. And if those on the Brexit side are also going to be upset, that means everyone's going to be upset, doesn't it? We chose it for ourselves. It wasn't forced upon us by others. And even at this point, we can still avert it. So why are we deliberately choosing an outcome that upsets everyone? And just as a little aside, and I'm just going to have to say in all seriousness, if a single Brexit supporter tries to moan at the consequences next year has to be the land of milk and honey for them. If they moan about any of the consequences, I will be having none of it if the consequences they're moaning about are exactly what we wanted. Now, I mean, fair enough. Let us say that Brexit actually mostly is fine and there's only one downside, and that downside happens to be that we are invaded by endless swarms of locusts all playing kazoos. That it's okay to complain about that. Won't have a pop at you for that because nobody predicted that. I didn't predict that. Actually, I just have now. But, you know, the Remain side did not predict that. But if it's a consequence that the Remain side did warn, then you get no right. Because you were warned, and to moan about it after the event that you voted for it is to be either a hypocrite or a moron. And quite frankly, I'm not going to suffer either gladly next year. Also, hypocrite or moron makes no difference. You still don't get the right to be angry because, you know, they say they wanted Brexit. Now, just because it doesn't turn out how you think it will, doesn't mean you get to be angry. You know, like you go to a restaurant, you order your steak, doesn't come back how you thought it should be. You don't get to be angry. You can be disappointed. They've had nothing taken away from them in the same way that I have. They surrendered it willingly. You can't be angry at something you chose to do. You don't get to be angry at being a member of the EU and angry at not being a member of the EU. You have to pick one. But anyway, what is it specifically that Nigel Farage says will be so bad about Brexit that supporters will be angry? So, like Ian Duncan Smith earlier this month, Nigel Farage is saying that the problem is with the withdrawal agreement. It doesn't give the UK the freedom that it wants. Because here's the thing. Also, like Ian Duncan Smith, Nigel Farage voted for it in Parliament. The European Parliament in his case, because remember, he's tried and failed to get elected to Westminster 7 times, on one notable occasion being beaten by a dolphin. In addition, Nigel Farage supported the withdrawal agreement with more than just his vote. You know, he also pulled Brexit Party candidates. In fact, that's massive support. And about half the seats in the general election, Nigel Farage pulled Brexit Party candidates. Though I suspect he was forced to do so by the people actually in control of the party. I have an inclination he probably didn't want to do that. But nonetheless, he says that it was his decision. And he supported that decision. And the reason he gave for pulling those candidates, he said that he did that because otherwise the Liberal Democrats could have gained more seats and then we'd have had another referendum. Now, there's a couple of things to that. First of all, factually, he's quite correct. Absolutely correct. No argument from me. If the Brexit Party had fielded candidates in all of the seats that they boasted they would, that they promised they would, Boris Johnson would not have won his majority. Because remember, Boris Johnson did not win his majority by getting a majority of the country to vote for him. That didn't happen. He did it by winning about 100 odd seats by a very small margin. A margin that would have easily been swallowed up with Brexit Party candidates in the same seats. The vote would have been split. Conservatives would have lost a number of seats. That would have meant a hung parliament, then we'd have been back to where we were before the election. And Nigel Farage is absolutely correct to say that would have led to another referendum because it was already headed that way. Before the election, it was headed that way. Parliament was deadlocked. This is why we kept having to get more extensions to Article 50, because there was no way of getting everyone in Parliament to agree for something. Most specifically, it's because of the Conservatives. There was actually a majority for a referendum in many ways, but that would have potentially split the party. But everyone was starting to be turned on to the fact that this is the only way to end this. We can't still be here in 5 years' time asking for another extension to Article 50. The only way anything was going to happen was a referendum. That was all there was to it. So if the election had returned a hung parliament, or frankly, if the opposition leaders hadn't been so stupid and allowed the election in the first place, that is what 2020 would have brought us. It would have been the year of the referendum. He's quite correct. That's absolutely correct. However, second point, that mustn't allow us to gloss over the fact that what Nigel Farage is trying to claim now is, so what he's trying to say is he held his nose and supported this bad Brexit deal. Okay, and the reason he is giving is the reason he did that is because otherwise there'd have been a referendum. In other words, the British people would have got to say after a few years of seeing what Brexit's all about, actually, do we want it or not? And if we do, what sort of Brexit do we want? In other words, giving them a choice that they never actually had in 2016. So Nigel Farage is saying that he held his nose and supported a bad Brexit deal rather than allow any democracy to actually take place. His objection was democracy itself. And no, you don't get to say, well, the general election was the democracy, because no. Because apart from the fact a majority of people who voted in that general election voted for parties that promised another referendum. But a general election is not a single issue event. A referendum is a single issue event. And also, in addition to that, so Nigel Farage reckons his Brexit party presented another choice for people. It's a party that offers things that other parties don't. Okay. In which case, by pulling those candidates, he was denying people in about half the seats in the country the capacity to vote for the candidate that they would have preferred to vote for. Well, that's also anti-democratic there. But anyway, why is he coming out with all this now? So, partly, of course, to absolve himself of blame, like I say at the start. But I noted that whilst he was complaining about the trajectory that they're currently on, and he's not good, Brexiteers will be very angry at this, he didn't actually say what the government should do differently. In other words, if he were Prime Minister, what would he do differently? Didn't actually say, as far as I could tell. And he wouldn't be able to say he'd drop the withdrawal agreement, you know, if he did answer that, because no, he supported it last autumn, remember. And now, we've already pointed out two ways in which he supported it. First of all, he supported it by voting for it. He voted for it in a parliament. And he didn't have to, but he did. Second of all, he pulled Brexit Party candidates, ensuring that the withdrawal agreement would go through Parliament and be accepted. But then there was the other thing as well. So remember, so he's trying to say now, well, okay, I don't like the deal, but it was either that or no Brexit, so I went for the deal has been better than no Brexit. Aha, really? How interesting. So what Nigel Farage is trying to say is that actually what we should have had, this is what he's now trying to say this week, what we should have had is no withdrawal agreement. We should have just had a complete clean break, no deal at all with the EU. Is that right? Because I'd like to cast people's minds back to last October. So the scenario was this, at the start of last October, Boris Johnson had his withdrawal agreement, the one that Nigel Farage says is so bad. So he has his withdrawal agreement, but Parliament aren't too sure about it. I'm not really keen on this. This isn't really, no. So we needed another extension at the end of October because it wasn't going to go through Parliament in time. Okay. I think it was Jean-Claude Juncker at the time said there was no need for another extension because what he wanted us to do was to just pass it through. Look, we've renegotiated your bloody withdrawal agreement. Yes, we all know it's the one that Theresa May put in the bin. You've picked it out, taken the bits of banana skin off it and handed it to the British people. Yeah, we get that. But they think it's a new deal. Just get it through Parliament, will you, and leave and just go. There's no need for another extension. Now, as soon as Juncker said that, I don't think he mentioned banana peel, but still, as soon as he said that, Nigel Farage flipped his lid, went absolutely loo. The idea that we wouldn't get an extension, how? This is outrageous. You're denying the Ben Act, which, by the way, is British legislation, not EU legislation. But anyway, how dare this person who's not British have, not follow British law when he's not even in Britain? How dare he? But yeah, he was outraged. It actually cost him a bit of support. Outraged that we might end up with a no-deal Brexit, because that was the natural conclusion. He should have been going, oh yeah, great, no, nice one. Yeah, don't give us an extension. We're not going to get the withdrawal agreement through, so we have a proper Brexit. Because that's what he's calling a proper Brexit. And yet he raged against it. So no, he doesn't get to say that that's what he wanted. Doesn't get to say that at all. The real reason I think he's doing this also is not just to avoid blame. He'll do that anyway, and he'll do it easily. Because he's afraid of power. He wouldn't put himself anywhere near a position where he had actual power over the events. So he gets to be one of those people who says, you should do this, it'd be brilliant. And then when they do it, they go, no, you did it wrong. You did it wrong. No. It's the gravy train. That's what he's after. Basically, the reason he flipped his lid at the prospect of the Brexity of Brexits, the hardest of Brexits, no withdrawal agreement even, is because where does he go from there? He's out the European Parliament, he's already out there. So that's that gravy train gone. There isn't another one at the station for him. What relevance would he have? Why would his Russian paymasters carry on paying him if they got the most extreme form of Brexit possible? There's nothing else for him to campaign for. And old Nigel, he likes his luxuries. He's rich, yeah, he's a multimillionaire, absolutely. But he's not tens of millions. He can't really afford to retire in the manner to which he is accustomed without more readies coming in. Old Nigel takes some looking after, he's a bit high maintenance. So he needs relevance. He needs Brexit to go badly, but in a way that he gets to say, but it's the type of Brexit you did, even though it's the type of Brexit that I fully supported. And I think that's ultimately what it's about. So he's already threatened to turn his Brexit party into the Reform Party. And effectively, that's effectively what it's about. He wants people to keep paying him money. Keep paying me money and I'll keep them honest. I'll keep pointing out their mistakes and not saying what they should do differently. And I'll keep supporting things and then a year later decide it's absolutely horrendous. That's effectively what he wants. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.